I just love this quote. The eye, this is from Matthew. The eye is the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. It also goes on to say, but when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. So really this is about tonight, where I've found it incredibly important that when we are going through a breaking process, which a lot of people are right now, that we can see clearly what's actually going on, to have the eyes of God and to have the heart of God. Otherwise, if we fixate on those pieces that are breaking off, we can get lost in them. We can get lost in the pain. We can get lost in, the things that are happening on the news. Having this clear seeing becomes very, very important. That's kind of, that's what happens. We have parts of us that get confused when we break through belief systems, when we break through things that identities of who we think we are, when we break through and break off expectations, break through judgments. There's these characters inside that come up and they get really, really intense. And we have to make sure we stay in the light, because these characters can be very convincing. And when we do break through, sometimes they still come back and they say, you're crazy, just like at the end there. They say, I think you're seeing things. When we actually move into the light, we go into a much more expanded space. And that's what we're getting into tonight. So everything that you hear tonight is really about hearing through the stories, through the videos, through the silence itself. You can take this in as a healing, because what we're going to do is we're allowing you to see a wider view, allowing yourself to see a wider view within your own life. There's one thing I do, which is I try to make light of the voices. All those voices, we all have voices in the mind that tell us different things. And I like to see them as little characters so that they don't seem so big. So this is something called internal family systems. And it talks about our internal world. So that's us sitting that's me, let's say me sitting in my living room. And then there's always little voices underneath. And what can happen, I'm just innocently sitting there. If I'm going through a big shift, like one of these things, which all of us are going through right now, some of these voices can start coming up from underneath the living room. Make yourself beautiful, get a good career, buy more stuff, go on Netflix, keep looking at your phone. These are mine, except the beautiful thing. I don't think I say that. Be a good mom. Make sure that you are useful in this world. Make sure you're saving the planet. That can be a voice too. That can unground us. So there's a lot of voices. They could be not just negative voices, but what we might consider positive voices. And what can happen when we're going through an experience of breaking, when we're going through an experience where God is really wanting to just break us open and bring us to a new level of heart expansion, a new level where we want to feel and experience our heart more in the world, where we want to connect with people, is sometimes these characters get afraid. So this might be my inner perfectionist, which was coming up right before the call, because technology was not working, the little perfectionist with the books here. And it was trying to control, Miriam and Padre and Brian and Renee, like, no, do this. And I had to keep saying, okay, I need to go back to my prayer closet. I don't have to worry, even though the technology is not working. I see the little character here. It's trying to pop in. And I'm being asked in this moment to live what I'm talking about, to let this part of me break, the thing that thinks that I need to do this perfectly, that the technology even needs to work. Maybe the technology doesn't have to work today. Just to let it all go, really, just to let it all go. So what we want to allow is to develop this connection with God so that God can start being the director or a higher self, both in union together. When we can get a bigger understanding of what's actually happening, then it's easier to let go. We don't hold on so much onto things. And that may not necessarily mean all of our suffering goes away, but that when we can allow ourselves to see, oh, this is just a part of me that is frustrated again, that I think I need to be really spiritual right now. I think I need to be really accepting right now. I think I need to be totally forgiving right now of everything. And what this is saying is, no, let's just see. Let's just allow ourselves to see, and then let God take over from there. When I'm going through tough times, Jesus is such a beautiful example to me of someone who moves through suffering with grace. And he just, and also someone who just embraced his purpose here, and really lived fully. There's a scene in, I believe it's Luke, something like that. Let's say it's Luke, yeah, Luke, where he's right before he's sent to the cross, right before he's betrayed, and he's pretty much saying, God, can you take this away from me? This is, in a sense, this is too much. And yet he said, there's a little moment of doubt there, or pain. There's just a lot of grief. He was going through a lot of grief. And then he said, but your will, not my will. So, Jesus went through pain just like we do. Just like a lot of us right now, we're going through a lot of things. One of the things he was showing us was how to pray. That honesty. Like, I don't want this right now. This is true. There's a part of me that doesn't want this. But your will, not my will. Not my ego's will. Your will. The partnership I've created, my higher self created with you, God. I want that to happen. I want to be willing to open to that. And so because of that prayer and that connection, you could see that angel came in and offered him support. And it helped him. It gave him strength to move on his path. That was the presence. He allowed that presence. And there were many more moments of that happened along the way for him too. This is real. Whatever you're going through, it doesn't matter. There's nothing too big for God. You take one step towards God, God takes 1,000 steps towards you. It's just that one moment of willingness, just to receive that grace. This is a quote from James, which I'll read to you. Consider it pure joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. I remember I was reading one of Von Roth's books, and it was talking about the dark night of the soul, which I know a lot of us have gone through. And it said, God, you think you have gone through a lot until the dark night comes, and then God takes everything away, even the good things. Because God knows that there's something even better. There's something even better waiting. I've experienced this many times. And this is the new wine. This is, when I saw this and I heard a song about this, I start seeing communion differently too than the wine. God wants to crush the grapes, to let out these programs and these old beliefs about ourselves, all these old energies, all these old emotions, which we can't hold on to. We can't hold on to in the light that wants to burst through as the seed that we are, that moves into the expression that we are. So the reason why many are still troubled, still seeking, still making little forward progress is because they haven't yet come to the end of themselves. We're still trying to give orders, give orders to God and interfering with God's work within us. Can we really allow this crushing to happen? We don't have to see crushing as a bad thing. We could see this breaking open as a joyful thing, breaking open to the light that we are, something much bigger that we're being invited into on our path, beyond anything that we can imagine. Even when we visualize things, we can't even imagine what God has that's possible for us. And ultimately, what is this new wine? It's really a gift of ourselves. We are the expression. We are the gift back. We can't, like St. Francis says, make me a vessel of your peace. We can't be that peace unless we empty out. That when we allow ourselves to break, we become the gift. We become that flower. And that's God's gift to the world. This passage, the narrow gate, I'm going to read it to you because this is really important. This is summing up the whole series that we've been in. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Now, right before this passage, I was reading it. Before this verse was another verse, and it was the golden rule in Matthew. Do to others what you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that is taught in the law and the prophets. And I just love that story that both Renee and Padre talked about, and Padre was talking about forgiveness. You know, how do we enter that narrow gate? How do we enter where we start to become unified with God? We need to forgive, no matter what, no matter who it is, what's happened in our life, what part of our life. And mostly we need to forgive ourselves.